So let's have fun. We're going to have an intellectual exercise on how Barack Obama and Donald Trump are the same person. So we'll start with the first one. Barack Obama said that due process doesn't matter when it comes to assassinating American citizens abroad. Donald Trump says that deporting people into an El Salvador prison without due process, one could argue it's better, it's not an American citizen. However, he's hinted at sending American citizens to penal colonies based on their crimes that the government accuses them of. You see how these two things are similar? Both are claiming very authoritarian powers. Barack Obama signed the National Defense Authorization Act, which gave him the ability to indefinitely detain American citizens. Donald Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act. At least you're going back 100 years in order to try to justify what you're doing today, versus just making it up as you go. Moving on, both Donald Trump and Barack Obama have cults of personality behind them. Both of them have their base of supporters who think that they're the greatest president ever. I don't think Barack Obama or Donald Trump are the greatest president ever, especially if we look at all the presidents, excluding the nameless ones, like Franklin Pierce. People don't even know who that is. But George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, George H.W. Bush, good president, much better than his son. So, of course, we got him out of there in the first term. But it's scary that people will surrender their critical thinking skills for Barack Obama or Donald Trump. You can support Donald Trump. You can support Barack Obama. But you don't have to agree with everything they do. And we have segments of the American population who agree with whatever these two men have done. So now it's giving rise to extremists like AOC. AOC openly said that Joe Biden should defy the Supreme Court when it came to student loan forgiveness. This is hilarious because you're like, oh my God, Donald Trump might disobey the Supreme Court. Well, you were openly advocating for Joe Biden to openly disobey the Supreme Court. But we're going to put that to the side. Hopefully we don't have to deal with that in the future. Also, Barack Obama and Donald Trump managed to defeat the permanent powers in Washington when it came to getting their respected nominations. Everyone in Washington wanted Hillary Clinton. But once they fell back on Barack Obama and all the banks bought him out, and when we were going through the 2008 mortgage crisis, and none of the people who committed fraud went to jail. That's because Barack Obama was bought off by the bankers. Something similar happened with Donald Trump. They didn't want Donald Trump to be the nominee. But after a while, they kind of gave up and just said, okay, I guess Donald Trump's the nominee. And then the Great Orange Man managed to defeat Hillary Clinton, which Barack Obama probably thought in retrospect was hilarious. Also, one thing that was arguably more authoritarian by Barack Obama to Donald Trump had his campaign spied on by the Obama administration. No one got in trouble for that. But apparently the presidents have been acting like kings for a while now. All of a sudden we care when Donald Trump is doing it. Another thing they're pretty similar on is cracking down on the border. Everyone who gave Donald Trump shit for putting kids in cages didn't care when Barack Obama did the exact same thing. And our current border czar was the head of ICE during the Obama administration. So they're both pretty hardliners on the border. Another prominent figure who's been around both these men, Elon Musk. When Elon Musk supported Barack Obama, they were like, this is the greatest thing ever. Look at him. He's creating all these new technologies that could help humanity in electric cars. As soon as he switches over to Donald Trump, all of a sudden he's the most evil person in the world. And people are committing domestic terrorism against Elon Musk, firebombing Tesla dealerships. And anyone who doesn't say that's domestic terrorism, it's using violence for a political objective. I don't know what else you can call it. But all of a sudden he supports the Great Orange Man. Now Elon has become public enemy number one. We'll see how long Donald Trump keeps him around because I think he's a useful person to absorb all the hatred that would be reserved for Trump if he wasn't there. Also, Barack Obama and Donald Trump were very critical about our NATO allies. Barack Obama famously called the Europeans a bunch of freeloaders. And now Donald Trump is saying no more free rides, Europe. All of a sudden he wants to destroy NATO and it's no longer important. Obama said, stop purchasing Russian oil. If you're that scared of the Russian war machine, you're propping it up. Donald Trump pointed out in the joint session of Congress, hey Europe, if you're so scared of Russia, the boogeyman, well, maybe you should actually stop buying their oil because you spent more money on that than you have money to Ukraine. So how are those positions really dissimilar? They're not. Now, something that is unique to Donald Trump is he only has 4 years. So that's probably why he's trying to ram his agenda through as quickly as possible. Some of the things I really don't like about the Trump administration are similar criticisms I would have for Barack Obama. Due process is important. With this Kilmar Garcia situation, bring him back, At least you didn't kill him like Barack Obama did to an American citizen. Bring him back, prove that he's part of MS-13, and then deport his ass the right way. And Donald Trump could have saved himself a big headache if he just stuck with what Obama did. Other criticisms I would have of the Trump administration. I think the tariffs were a really bad idea. If you want to use targeted tariffs, that's different. But if you want to use them on the world and crash the stock market, which will eventually affect Main Street, and that's what's destroying Donald Trump's popularity. It's the tariffs. It's very simple. No one gives a shit about Barack Obama or Donald Trump violating the U.S. Constitution. They care if they're able to afford things, which is kind of sad because I think our due process rights are important, including everyone who's under the jurisdiction of the United States should have their individual liberty protected. But we'll see how long Donald Trump keeps challenging the courts. Is he going to stand up one day on TV and just be like, let the courts enforce their rulings? Even if he would do that, I think eventually the Republicans in Congress would have to do something, because part of the reason the United States is a superpower and everyone invests here is because we have the rule of law. And Donald Trump's just a natural evolution after George Bush, Barack Obama, and if you abuse all these powers in the executive branch, someone might abuse it. When's the last time we had a president actually give powers back to Congress? It hasn't happened. And now we have the Supreme Court trying to reassert itself as far as a check on Donald Trump's power. These were the jackasses that gave him the presidential immunity nonsense. So are we really surprised one day we might go through a constitutional crisis?